Hello, Wolfpack. Something I get quite often in my comment section, I think a lot of people get it quite often who are in the cryptocurrency space as well, is the false claim that TA doesn't work and that everything's just random and Bitcoin will do what it wants. The S&P 500 will do what it wants. That's always the word they use, what it wants. And everything is random. We can't predict it. Drawing up charting patterns just acts as a little game. It's kind of like gambling. It doesn't really work. That's the kind of the claim that people make. Now, I have many problems with this claim. And I suppose the first problem I'd have with the claim is that, and this is from personal experience, but the other ones, I have many problems that I'm going to list out here. One of them is from personal experience. My first one is, well, my income wouldn't exist. The way I make a living wouldn't exist without TA, right? If TA didn't work, I'm better off just going to a casino, right? Because it's 50-50 at that point. If TA didn't work, why would I, how can I be doing what I'm doing today? I mean, that's obviously very, selective and very personal, and that's not really convincing to some people, but that's the first little step into this territory of answering that question. It's like, well, my entire existence and my entire financial existence completely, defies the original comment that TA doesn't work. And that kind of leads me into, answering that question further. And it's like, well, if TA doesn't work, you're speaking from personal experience, right? Because that's the only way you can speak about it, because the data doesn't suggest that. The data doesn't back the claim that TA doesn't work. And so I would say that if you think TA doesn't work, you're just bad at TA, or you just don't understand TA properly, right? So if I'm sitting here daily for years, right, ever since I was 16 years old, and I'm making, obviously not every day is profitable, but generally speaking, I don't think I've had a red month, right? My entire time. I've had red days, I've had red weeks. I don't think I've had red months. My entire time investing, right, and trading, I've never had a red month. I'm trading almost daily, probably, out of the week, probably 5 days a week I'm in a trade, okay? And I'm profitable using TA that I've mastered over the course of years since I was 16 years old, and then you come here and you're likely inexperienced. You likely haven't tried to learn TA too much. You likely have probably picked up, I know what a triangle is, but you don't know anything else regarding it, and you tell me it's wrong. It's like, well, I would be inclined to believe that you're just bad at it or you don't understand it properly. Now, the thing with TA is this, and this is very confusing to some people. TA does not work 100% of the time. Doesn't work 100% of the time. Not at all. In fact, it only works roughly 70% of the time if you're taking into account all the different indicators, patterns. Obviously, that's a rough estimate. But generally speaking, it's never going to work 100% of the time. It's not a guaranteed making money method. If you find a trade that looks good, you can pretty much count on the fact that at least a quarter of the time that's not going to go in your favor, even if everything looked good, right? That's just how it works, because unexpected things happen. Bitcoin might move in a certain direction. There might be a global event. It might just not work out. There might be manipulation. Who knows? There's many, many factors that can throw it off. And so I think that some people, I would see that and they'd think, oh, okay, well, it's just gambling then. You're just flipping a coin. But the thing is, it's about playing the probability. It's why does a casino profit from gambling? Okay? It's because they have the house edge. Okay, if you know TA, you have the house edge. You are the house. You have the edge in the market. So it might not work 100% of the time, but over a long period of time of consistently trading and doing it properly, and that's an important thing, you will be in profit. Now, that's a very important thing, doing it properly, okay? And this is where education comes in. If you know basic TA, all right, basic TA, you're probably not going to be as profitable as someone who knows advanced TA. Why? Because you might see, okay, look, we've got a bullish descending wedge formation and we've got an RSI bullish divergence, okay? But you might miss the fact that the volume doesn't look good. You might miss the fact that we're right on resistance. You might miss the fact that, for example, we're testing bull market support band. You might miss the other things, okay? So the thing about TA is you need to have an all-seeing eye, not only on the asset you're trading, but on the entire market. And you're weighing up the probability using dozens of different metrics at the same time. It's not just, okay, we've got one triangle and there's a bullish RSI divergence, that's a good trade. That's too simplistic. Yes, it might work, but it's not going to work to the same extent as if you have an all-encompassing eye on the entire market using many different methods of analysis. So that's the first thing. I don't think I've ever met anyone who's spent over 100 hours studying TA or has been in over 1,000 trades and actually tries to trade who thinks TA doesn't work. Because the only reason you learn something is because it works, right? You see the proof of it working. You see the fact that there are traders out there making consistent profits. Maybe you enter a few trades yourself. You see it works. You see the fact that, hey, oh, look, Bitcoin's on support right now. Why does that exist? Why does that support line exist? Oh, I know, because TA works, right? A support line is technical analysis. So if you don't believe TA works and you think that everything is just, Bitcoin's doing what it wants, crypto's doing what it wants. Whatever it does, it's doing what it doesn't really matter what the lines are. Lines don't mean anything. They're magical lines, right? That's another saying. They're magical lines that don't do anything. It's like, well, then why is it on support, right? It's on support because that zone is identified as a support zone using TA based on many, many technical indicators, many things happening, whatever, right? Many people are interested in buying that region. That supports the price, and hence the TA works. Even from a simplistic point of view, okay, why does the market move up and down? Because there are buyers and sellers in the market, okay? And with knowing, in knowing that, and in knowing basic human psychology, you would know that people generally act the way they do for certain reasons. And hence you get mentalities of groups of people acting the same way. And if you get groups of people acting the same way, that's going to lead to patterns. And if you get patterns, you can see that human psychology repeating over and over again in time. And with those patterns becomes, they shift the probability of a breaking upside to the downside. And you can act on that. Once you understand the patterns, you understand what is likely to happen. And that's true with everything. That's not just TA. And that's another thing. It's like, well, saying TA doesn't work is acting like humans are robots in a certain way. Because if humans have emotions and humans react in certain ways to certain things, and they collectively act in certain ways to certain things, which they do, then TA works by default, right? So that's another thing it's neglecting. I think another thing that I think is interesting about people who make these kind of claims that TA doesn't work is it's almost like it's an excuse for them not to learn TA because they might be scared of learning TA. They might be intimidated by the amount of time, commitment, and the financial commitment might go into learning TA, right? If you broadly claim something like, oh, yeah, TA doesn't work, it's just magical lines, doesn't work, you can get away mentally in your own brain with not putting in the time and effort of learning TA. You might be scared of the commitment. You might be scared of the potential financial losses that might, happen at the start of your TA learning process where you're just learning how to trade, right? There's many things you're kind of just throwing out the window, and I think it's an easy solution. That's what I've always thought about it. Whenever I see those comments, TA doesn't work. Oh, look, you said this was going to break to the upside. It broke to the downside. They don't understand the probability, right? It's not guaranteed it's going to break to the upside. They're also, it seems like they're just, lazy to a certain extent. They're just being lazy. It's like, well, it's very easy to not learn something if you choose not to believe it's true. And that could be applied to many factors in life that I'm not going to get into, but I think it's an excuse for laziness to a certain extent. I mean, the evidence is clear, and the reason why it's an excuse for laziness is because unless you don't believe in statistics, you're ignoring it, right? The evidence is clear. The evidence is in. This is mathematically proven. This isn't a theory. Right? TA is not a theory. It works. It's maths. It's pattern identification. It's mathematics, statistics, statistical analysis. This is not a theory, right? So I think just throwing it out the window blindly is obviously an excuse for you not to take the time and effort to learn it. I think as well is that, it stops, and this, I'm just referring to my notes here because I wrote some notes before this video. It stops you wanting to learn. Like I said, if you're so willing to chuck it out the window, you think it's fake, it's going to stop you from actually proceeding to learn more and be more profitable in the market. And, it's going to lead to confirmation bias as well. Because once you establish that mindset where it's like, oh, TA doesn't work, I'm not going to learn TA, chuck it out the window, then you're going to look for those patterns that don't work out. You're going to point to that as a justification for you not learning TA instead of looking for when it does work out and making more money in the future. And I think that another thing as well is like, if they say TA doesn't work, it's based on nothing. Well, if it's based on nothing, what is it based on? If it's based on nothing, why does the price move? What's triggering that? If it's not TA, if it's not market patterns, what is it? Is it just events? Is it just people just see something happen and they just buy blindly and sell blindly and everyone's doing, and they have the illusion that they're in control, but they're just selling and buying blindly? It's like, well, then why do patterns form? If that's the case, why do triangles even form so consistently? And you could say, well, they're not actually there. You're just making them up in your head and your imagination. It's like, well, I highly doubt that. I look at any chart, I can clearly identify support zones, resistance zones, triangles, head and shoulders formations, Adam and Eve patterns, almost immediately. The pattern recognition from an analyst, I'm not boasting myself here, but I do this for a living. The pattern recognition that I have as an analyst is insanely large. I can look at a chart, within 5 minutes, I'll have the whole chart charted out. 4 years of price history, the whole thing will be charted out within 5 minutes. That's pattern recognition. And patterns only exist because they result to certain things. Otherwise, they wouldn't be patterns, right? So what is it based on? If you think it's based on nothing, what is it based on? It's not just events. And even if it was, what do events do? Well, events, say something happens, China goes to war, whatever, right? Everyone's going to look at that. Oh shit, I'm scared now. I'm fearful now. What am I going to do? I'm going to sell my assets, right? And if people collectively think that, in a way, you could be an analyst and you can analyze that situation and you can identify, okay, this has happened. And, likely there was a build-up leading up to it. So something probably formed, some sort of bearish charting pattern probably formed there. And, even if not, even if it's just a random sell-off event, which happens, you can still identify, okay, where are the support regions? Where are the levels that we can see this panic-fueled drop stop dropping? And you can identify that and you can trade based on this level. So even in times of peak volatility, even in times where all logic is out the window, where all, panic sets in, fear sets in, FOMO sets in, even in those really, really intense times, you will still see these support levels and resistance levels that you deem to be fake hold the support and resistance. So is that a coincidence or is it TA? All right. Thanks for watching, guys. Check out the things at the end of the video here. So cheers.